Okay, let's dive into a legal story that's generating some significant headlines right now.
Yeah, this one's pretty complex.
We're looking at a $20 million lawsuit filed against the rapper Fat Joe, Joseph Antonio Cartagena. That's his real name.
And it's filed by his former hype man, Terrence T.A. Dixon.
Right. And for anyone maybe not familiar, a hype man, they're on stage supporting the main act, getting the crowd energized.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to unpack this. We want to look at the claims, the counterclaims, everything presented in this federal lawsuit.
And we're sticking straight to the source material here.
Absolutely. We're drawing directly from the court documents, official statements, just trying to give you the clearest possible picture of the allegations.
Yeah, our goal is just to lay out the facts as presented by both sides. We're not, taking sides or making judgment.
Yep, just showing you what the sources actually say.
And those sources are primarily a 157-page complaint filed in the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York.
And also some statements that Global News reported on, I think it was June 20th, 2025.
So yeah, get ready for a deep look into a really nuanced legal fight.
It's important to understand the specifics here, the details, because the narratives are just so different. You really need both to grasp the whole situation.
Okay, so let's start with the plaintiff, Terrence T.A. Dixon's claims.
All right. The core accusation, and it's obviously the most serious one, is that Fat Joe allegedly engaged in sex acts with minors.
Dixon states he actually personally witnessed Cartagena.
Yeah, his words. In sexual relations with children, specifically ages 15 and 16.
The complaint gets very specific, doesn't it? It talks about individuals labeled minor doe.
It does. For instance, minor doe 1. She's described as a 16-year-old Dominican girl in New York.
And the allegation is she receives things like cash, clothes, even cell phone bill payments.
Yes, allegedly in exchange for performing oral sex and other sexual acts on Cartagena.
Okay. And then there's minor doe 2.
Right. Described as a white female, not a U.S. citizen. The complaint claims Cartagena started sexual relations with her when she was just 15.
15. After an overseas concert, it says.
Yeah, and then allegedly flew her to New York City and Miami multiple times.
There's also a pretty specific claim in there about paying for cosmetic surgery.
Uh-huh. A Brazilian butt lift. The complaint actually says it was because her body was, and this is a quote, adolescent and not fully formed.
Wow. And she apparently later married a professional athlete.
That's what's reported, yeah. Then there's minor doe 3.
Identified as Latina, met Cartagena when she was 15, turning 16.
And Dixon alleges Cartagena was, really involved with her. In love, the complaint says. Even thinking about leaving his wife for her.
And financially supporting her.
Allegedly paid all her bills, took her on tour overseas, housed her in a condo he rented in Florida.
Which was near his own home.
Yeah, just a few blocks from the house he shared with his wife, according to the filing.
There's also mention of a recording.
Yes, a recorded conversation supposedly between minor doe 3 and her 15-year-old cousin.
And in that recording,
they allegedly describe Cartagena's focus on children as inappropriate, especially given he was, in his late 30s at the time.
So these allegations involving minors are incredibly serious, obviously. Yeah. But Dixon's complaint goes broader than that, right?
Oh, yeah, much broader. He alleges a whole pattern of misconduct.
Things like?
The complaint uses terms like coercive labor exploitation, financial fraud, sexual manipulation, violent intimidation, and psychological coercion. A whole list.
And Dixon makes personal claims, too, about his own experiences.
He does. He claims he himself was forced into humiliating situations, including sex acts, he says, were performed under duress, even under surveillance.
With threats involved.
Yeah, threats of being abandoned in foreign countries if he didn't comply. It's pretty graphic. He alleges being coerced into more than 4,000 sexual acts just to keep his position.
4,000? He calls Cartagena's operation an enterprise.
Right, and it's not just Cartagena named in this alleged enterprise.
Who else is mentioned?
Some people described as his key associates, Pistol Pete Torres, and Richard Rich Player Jospiter.
Okay. And then there's the Roc Nation connection. That's Jay-Z's company.
Exactly. Roc Nation represents Cartagena, and they're named in the suit, too.
What's the allegation against them specifically?
The suit claims Roc Nation knowingly participated in concealing, transferring, and manipulating Dixon's authorship rights and royalty interests.
So interfering with his creative rights and money.
Right. And also that they tried to intimidate, harass, and basically obstruct Dixon's claims.
And there are financial allegations against Cartagena and his associates as well.
Yes. Dixon alleges deliberate tax fraud schemes were used to hide wage theft.
He claims he wasn't paid properly.
Essentially, yeah. That he was consistently underpaid, denied songwriting credits, and that royalties and back-end compensation were deliberately concealed from him.
A lot to unpack there. And Dixon's lawyer made quite a statement, too.
Yeah, Tyrone Blackburn. He said, Fat Joe is Sean Combs minus the Tusi.
Wow, directly comparing him to Diddy. That's loaded.
Very loaded. And Blackburn added they have additional pages of predicated acts ready to disclose, so implying there's more to come.
Okay. That is a very detailed and severe set of allegations from Dixon's side.
No question.
So now let's pivot. We need to look at the defense's position. Fat Joe's counterclaims.
Right. So Cartagena's lawyer, Joe Tacopina, has come out swinging, vehemently denying everything.
How are they framing Dixon's lawsuit?
As retaliatory and extortionate. Basically that this is all about money and revenge.
What's really interesting here, too, is the timeline. This isn't the first lawsuit between them recently.
That's a crucial point. Cartagena actually sued Dixon first back in April, before Dixon filed this big suit in June.
And what was Cartagena suing Dixon for?
Slander on social media. Cartagena accused Dixon of calling him, Cartagena, a pedophile online.
Ah, okay. So there was already bad blood and legal action brewing before this $20 million suit dropped.
Exactly. It adds important context. Cartagena sees Dixon's current lawsuit as a direct response, a money grab.
He claims he treated Dixon well.
Yeah, his side says he paid Dixon generously and that Dixon, quote, enjoyed the perquisites of touring, luxurious travel, and other fringe benefits.
And Tacopina mentioned law enforcement.
He did. He stated that law enforcement is aware of the extortionate demand at the heart of this scheme, implying they see this as an attempt to force a payout.
So the core of their defense is
that these are complete fabrications, lies.
Yeah.
All intended, they say, to damage Cartagena's reputation and pressure him into a settlement through public backlash.
They're taking a strong stance then.
Very defiant. Tacopina says Cartagena will not be intimidated, and that they've taken their own legal action, likely referring back to that April suit, to expose what they call a fraudulent campaign.
And they plan to hold everyone involved accountable from their perspective.
That's the message.
And Dixon's response to that earlier countersuit from Cartagena.
Equally defiant. He basically said, this is the right way to fight, Joe, through the system.
Implying Cartagena tries to operate outside the system.
Seems to be the implication. Dixon added, you can't fight him no other way. Joe thinks he's a god. Joe thinks he's untouchable.
So you really couldn't have two more different stories here.
Not at all. On one hand, this incredibly detailed complaint alleging, horrific abuse, financial crimes, coercion.
And on the other, a complete denial, framing it all as lies, extortion, part of an ongoing feud.
It really does lay bare how difficult these situations are, especially when you have such high-profile figures involved. Reputation, career, huge sums of money, all on the line.
So thinking about this, what does it all mean for you, the listener, watching this unfold?
Well, cases like this one, especially in the entertainment world, they really spotlight the challenge, right? How do you determine truth when you have such serious accusations met with such forceful denials?
It definitely makes you think about the legal process, public perception.
And the power dynamics, too. Within these industries, fame, money, influence, they all play a role in how these battles play out, both in court and in the public eye.
It leads to a tough question, I think.
Yeah. As this whole thing unfolds, how do we, as the audience, sort through it? How do we think about accountability when someone's entire reputation is potentially being destroyed?
And how much weight do you give accusations when the other side is screaming extortion? It's something to really consider.